I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Mary Kissel, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, is here with me. Raj Rajaratnam, a billionaire, Galleon Group. Raj Rajaratnam guilty on all charges, SEC insider trading. Raj Rajaratnam facing many years, if not decades, behind bars, federal prison, medium security, probably down the block from Bernie Madoff, for insider trading. That is a great success for the SEC. All right, that was yesterday's news. Today's news is that all of the hedge funds are leaning forward saying, what happens next? Is it us? And by the way, Greenwich, we're talking to you. Mary, Greenwich, Connecticut, listening very closely right now to Mary Kissel. You were on the editorial board, Journal editorial report at noon today. And you were asked by your colleague Jason Riley about the Raj Rajaratnam conviction. And does this justify, I'm going to rephrase Jason's wonderful question, because pump it up a little bit, reminding that Joe... I
think you just like to say this guy's name, yeah, Rajaratnam.
I do, and also Joe reminds me, I've got to rehearse to be a real talk show host here. Okay, fine. Joe Rago. Does this tell us, Mary, that the Dodd-Frank bill is correct, that law, and that we need new regulations to mastermind these rascals on Wall Street?
No, it tells you that this fellow was, how should I say it, squirrely, John. This is a fellow who was getting material non-public information, that's a lawyerly term, but that's what they call it, from corporate insiders when he shouldn't have, and in some cases they were paying for it, and the government caught him on tape. And in fact, before the government caught him on tape, the government had turned a couple of Raj Rajaratnam's associates and gotten enough evidence there to convince a judge to put a wiretap in place. So that tells me that our laws are working just fine.
As a matter of fact, if I were to frame this conviction and the prosecution's material, there were so many smoking guns in the courtroom, there was no place to sit down.
Absolutely not.
You couldn't breathe in there. You needed a breathing mask. The SEC way overdid it, but good for them and good for the prosecution and good for the U.S. attorney. What's next? Are the hedge funds gathering now to say, can we shred our hard drives? Well,
now, there's a separate question here, which is the SEC's record on regulating information flows. The SEC, ever since Enron and WorldCom and those scandals, has tried very, very hard to stop investors from talking to the companies that they invest in, right. They haven't really drawn a clear line. So that's why you have hedge funds looking at this verdict and saying, well, what is it that we can and we can't do? The SEC has this idea that somehow companies are supposed to release information to every single investor at exactly the same time. It's totally ridiculous. Right. I mean, if it were up to me and I were queen, there would be no insider trading laws, but unfortunately, I'm not.
Well, Your Highness, given the condition of the market today, does this threaten business as we now see it? Those expert witness panels, all the transactions that were done over the last few years, cutting corners. After all, there was a financial crisis. We're trying to save the world. Is everybody now sweating what they don't remember they didn't do? Oh,
definitely. The expert network firms, and these are the firms that pair investors with experts in the field. So if you want to invest in a tech company in Silicon Valley, maybe you call up an expert network firm and they set you up with somebody in Massachusetts who's in a similar business. When it was announced that the SEC was investigating expert network firms last year, it definitely put a chill over the market, and lots of clients of those firms decided not to use their services anymore. And you know what that means? That means that all of the mom and pops out there that are putting money into 401ks, guess who manages the 401ks? These investors who now aren't using the expert networks and now don't have as much information at their disposal. So, this isn't just a question for hedge fund managers. It's actually a question for the American, the average guy who's putting money away every month in his retirement plan.
Mary used the wonderful metaphor, put a chill in the market. So now that the blizzard settles on Greenwich, we move to a much larger canvas, which is China. This week, an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, editorial remarks in the Wall Street Journal, and an op-ed by Mary Kissel pointed to the Cardinal Zen of China from Hong Kong, who made remarks that the Vatican has been over-compassionate, over-generous, too trusting to the bullies in Beijing. I note that, Mary, we talked about it earlier in the week, because since then, Vice Premier of China, appearing in Washington in meetings with our Secretary of Treasury, used the word simple about America. Do the Chinese princelings and their fathers, do they regard us as such chumps that they can insult us like this, abuse the Vatican, and get away with it?
Well, they certainly don't fear us right now. What they fear are their own people. And that's why you've seen such a huge crackdown over these past few months within China, to the extent where the government has even banned the jasmine flower because it is the symbol of the revolution.
Absolutely incredible. I was stunned by that. Mary and I will be having jasmine tea right after the broadcast if you're listening carefully. So, and the Vatican as well, is it re-energized now?
The crackdown, whether it be on Catholics in China, whether it be on bloggers, whether it be on human rights lawyers, or just the average person who is in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's part of a larger movement of the Chinese people want freedom, and the government's going to do the best that it can to prevent them from getting it. But ultimately, these people will prevail.
Mary Kissel, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. I'm John Batchelor. This is The John Batchelor Show.